There comes a moment in every life when the soul feels stretched to its breaking point, when the prayers seem to echo into silence, when the promises feel delayed, when the strength to hold on begins to falter. And in that sacred moment, between faith and frustration, between hope and heaviness, the voice of the Spirit whispers one divine command: don't quit, wait on God. You were never meant to survive by sight alone. What you see may look barren, but what you believe is pregnant with destiny. The world may say it's over, but the divine within you says it has just begun. You are not abandoned, you are being prepared. The waiting is not punishment, it is positioning. Too often we think of prayer as pleading, as if the heavens need convincing. But true prayer is alignment. It is not asking for strength. It is realizing that strength is already within you. It is not asking for a breakthrough, it is embodying the reality of one who has already broken through. For what you assume to be true, you draw into your world. God is not delaying to deny you, He is developing you. To wait on Him is not passive weakness, but spiritual authority. It is the bold act of defying appearances and anchoring your soul in the invisible. When the world says, give up, you respond, I've already seen the end, and it is good. So if you feel weary, if your knees are trembling and your hands are tired, lift your eyes, remember who you are, remember what you carry. This is not the end, this is the threshold. And on the other side of this waiting is the manifestation of everything you once dared to believe. Don't quit, wait on God, for your strength, your trust, and your breakthrough are not coming. They are already yours. Waiting on God is not passive. It is the highest act of faith. To wait on God is not to sit in helpless despair, nor is it to passively hope that something outside of you will shift your situation. Waiting, in its divine form, is a creative act, an inward confidence in the unseen. It is an active alignment of your soul with the reality you have already claimed in spirit. While the world teaches impatience, rushing, and constant motion, the spiritual man understands that real power lies in stillness. Stillness is not stagnation. Stillness is strength under control, a deep inner knowing that the seed of your desire is already taking root beneath the surface of appearances. Faith does not require evidence, it creates it. What you dare to accept as true in your imagination becomes the framework upon which your reality is built. To wait in faith is to nurture the invisible, to water the soil of your consciousness with assurance that what has been decreed in the silence shall shout in the daylight. When you declare that your prayer is answered even before your senses confirm it, you are not deluding yourself, you are aligning with a higher law, a law that says every external event must conform to the inner pattern you persist in. Waiting becomes the supreme discipline of the awakened soul. It demands the death of impatience, the crucifixion of doubt, and the burial of every need to control outcomes, and it promises resurrection, the rise of the thing hoped for made flesh in your world. You are not being denied, you are being deepened. Your capacity to receive is being expanded. Often, the very delay you resent is the tool God uses to anchor you in the truth of your identity. Consider the farmer. He plants his seed with full expectation of a harvest, though the soil offers no immediate proof. He does not dig it up every morning, wondering if it's working. He does not demand the plant to rush its growth. He knows the process is sacred. The same principle applies to the vision you have received. If God gave you a dream, a promise, a desire, He also gave you the divine substance necessary to bring it to pass. But that process unfolds in the realm of spirit first, long before it manifests in time. To wait on God is to stand still even while the storm rages. It is to maintain your inner conviction in the face of outer contradiction. The moment you entertain doubt, you divide your focus. The moment you become restless, you step out of the spiritual rhythm that creates miracles. God works in stillness. The divine speaks not in the noise of striving, but in the whisper of assurance. And that whisper always says, it is done, be still and know. The reason waiting feels hard is because the natural mind is addicted to control. It wants proof, it wants dates, deadlines, and blueprints. But God moves beyond the timeline of man. The divine orchestrates events in dimensions your intellect cannot perceive. Often, what appears to be a delay is a rerouting, a divine redirection to something far greater than you originally imagined. What you see as stillness is, in truth, a holy rearrangement taking place on your behalf. Trust this. The moment you truly accept your desire as fulfilled in the unseen, the machinery of heaven begins to move. People, opportunities, ideas, and circumstances begin to align, not because you forced them, but because you aligned inwardly. All of life becomes a mirror of your assumption. What you hold as true in your inner world must eventually reflect in the outer. This is the law, and the one who waits in faith lives in quiet celebration, for he knows his answer is not coming. It is already present, simply awaiting expression in form. So how do you wait? You wait as one who has already received. You walk, talk, and live from the end. You refuse to let visible facts override the inner truth. You speak with gratitude. You act with confidence. You go about your life knowing that your breakthrough is not some distant hope, but a spiritual reality. The moment you believed it was established, you do not need to strive for it. You simply need to sustain the consciousness of its fulfillment. The world may not understand this kind of faith. It may accuse you of delusion or denial. But you are not moved by opinion. You are moved by inner vision. Every man who ever changed his world first changed his mind. The outer is a servant of the inner, and when your inner state remains fixed, the outer world must yield. It may take time, but it will come, for time is not the enemy of faith. It is its servant. Time simply reveals what has already been decided in the spirit. Your greatest battles will not be with men or circumstances, but with the voices of doubt within your own mind. Learn to silence them. Learn to rise above appearances. Say to your heart daily, it is already done. Say to your fear, this too shall pass. Say to your doubt, I no longer entertain your presence. For waiting is warfare, not against people, but against the temptation to quit before the promise manifests. The one who masters the art of waiting is the one who walks in divine power. He no longer reacts to life. He creates it. He no longer seeks external validation. He rests in inner truth. He no longer fears time. He uses it. To wait on God is not to do nothing. It is to do the most important thing, to keep your inner world aligned with the vision you've received. The rest will take care of itself. So if today you find yourself in a place of delay, do not despair. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are in divine preparation. The thing you have prayed for, wept for, believed for, is not denied. It is being refined. It is being perfectly positioned, and you shall see it. If you do not quit, wait on God, not with anxiety, but with assurance, not with fear, but with faith. For to wait with faith is to agree with heaven, and what heaven has decreed cannot fail. Your prayer must be the assumption of its answer. Don't quit. Wait on God. Prayer is not an act of pleading. It is the act of assuming. To truly pray is to believe you have received. It is to abandon the position of lack and step into the posture of fulfillment. Most people approach prayer as if they are distant from what they seek, as if the divine must be persuaded to act on their behalf. But the truth is, prayer is not about convincing God to move. It is about moving your own consciousness into union with the outcome you desire. Until your prayer is an inward assumption of already having what you seek, it remains ineffective. To assume is to receive spiritually what has not yet appeared physically. It is to see with the eyes of the soul what the eyes of the flesh cannot yet behold. You must become so saturated with the end result that it colors your emotions, shapes your thoughts, and governs your behavior. In this state, you no longer question whether your desire will come to pass. You know that it has already come, not in the realm of the seen, but in the higher realm where all creation begins. There is a vast difference between praying for something and praying from it. When you pray for healing, you subtly affirm your sickness. When you pray for provision, you are still rooted in the idea of lack. But when you pray from the state of already being healed, already being supplied, already being transformed, you bypass the limitation of time and enter into divine agreement. You have shifted from a request to a realization. This is the true meaning of believe that you have received, and it shall be yours. The secret is this: your imagination is the birthplace of answered prayer. Your inner world is not a realm of fantasy. It is the womb of all future experience. What you dwell on internally will be expressed externally. To assume the wish fulfilled is to engage with life creatively, to live as though your desire has already unfolded. In this state, your mind no longer begs, it beholds, it sees the end as already accomplished and rests in the certainty that nothing can stop what has been decreed in faith. Many cry out in desperation, thinking that the intensity of emotion is what moves God, but it is not desperation that unlocks the heavens, it is belief, and belief in its purest form is assumption. When you assume a thing to be true, you no longer seek evidence. You become the evidence. You live from it. You speak from it. You carry yourself according to it. The words you speak are no longer filled with doubt, but with declaration. You say, not I hope, but it is done. This level of prayer demands a shift in identity. You cannot receive something from God while still seeing yourself as separate from it. You must become one with your answer. If you desire peace, you must identify as peaceful. If you desire abundance, you must feel yourself as abundant. If you desire love, you must carry the energy of one already. Loved, the law is clear. You attract not what you want, but what you are, and you become what you consistently assume. Assumption is not wishful thinking. It is not fantasy or delusion. It is the deliberate exercise of your God-given ability to form reality from within. You are not pretending. You are creating. You are embodying the vibration of your answered prayer, and that vibration, sustained over time, draws to you the very substance of your assumption. This is how mountains are moved, not by external force, but by inner conviction. One of the greatest truths you must embrace is this. God has already said yes. The promise is already complete in the Spirit. Your role is not to make it happen, but to receive it by assuming it is already so. You do not need to struggle or strive. You need only to align. Once the assumption is solidified within you, the world will bend itself. Reflect your new state of consciousness, the path, the people, the provision. All of it will rise up to meet your inner agreement. This is why doubt is so destructive. It fractures the image. It disrupts the vibration. It calls the finished thing unfinished, and thereby delays its arrival. You must protect your assumption from the interference of contrary thoughts. Speak only what supports your end. Think only what agrees with your desired outcome. Let your entire being be consumed with the truth that it is already done. In the stillness of prayer, see yourself as the one who already possesses what you once sought. Dwell in that scene until it becomes more real to you than your current situation. Feel the joy, the peace, the relief of being there. Let it become natural. The more natural it feels, the more certain its manifestation. Naturalness is the key to assumption. If it feels foreign or forced, persist until it becomes familiar. Repetition builds belief, and belief builds reality. This is how breakthrough comes, not when you wear yourself out begging God to act, but when you step into the spiritual confidence that says, God has already done it. Now I walk in it. The assumption is not a passive wish. It is an active state of consciousness. It changes how you speak, how you walk, how you think. It alters your posture. It reshapes your decisions, because you are no longer reacting to life. You are responding to the unseen truth that already governs your future. So do not wait for signs to believe. Believe, and the signs will follow. Do not wait for circumstances to change before you celebrate. Celebrate now, for your assumption is the seed of your testimony. What you embody in secret shall be rewarded in the open. You are not waiting for your prayer to be answered. You are waiting for your assumption to unfold. The two are one and the same. Therefore, pray not as a beggar, but as a possessor. Declare the end from the beginning. Walk by faith, not by sight. And above all, assume the state of the one who has already received. In this spiritual posture, there is no delay, no denial, and no defeat, only fulfillment. Your prayer, when rightly practiced, is the assumption of its answer, and that assumption, held in unwavering faith, becomes the reality from which you live, and the break through the world cannot deny. Trust it, the sacred bridge, the invisible passageway between the conception of your desire and its manifestation in the visible world. Without trust, the distance between your prayer and its fulfillment feels unbearable. With trust, that same distance becomes divine preparation. It is not the length of wait that determines your experience. It is the quality of your trust. Trust transforms time from a tormentor into a teacher. It is the spiritual substance that holds your assumption in place while the world rearranges itself to match your belief. Most people struggle not because their desires are wrong, but because their trust is weak. They plant the seed of a vision and then dig it up with fear. They declare the promise one day and question it the next. They waver between faith and frustration, never allowing the invisible to root itself deep enough to bear fruit. But trust, true trust, is unwavering. It stands in the midst of silence, contradiction, and delay and boldly declares, "I believe it is done," not because the outer world confirms it, but because the inner world has already accepted it. Trust is the evidence of inner sight. It is the fruit of knowing that your reality begins within, not without. When you trust, you no longer need signs to keep believing. You no longer need others to agree with you. You do not depend on outer confirmation to maintain your inner peace. Instead, you hold to your vision like a sacred treasure, knowing that what is seen was first unseen, and what is visible was once invisible. All things begin in spirit. Trust allows you to live from that origin point, even when your senses scream otherwise. To trust is to remain unmoved by appearances. It is to understand that reality is not immediate. It is revealed. There is a divine unfolding that takes place once you've made your inner claim. Like the slow dawn of day, your answered prayer emerges gradually into form. The light does not rush, and neither should you. Trust is what holds your soul steady in the meantime. It keeps you from panic. It silences your impulse to manipulate. It removes the need to prove. It says, "My Father is at work, even now, and His timing is perfect." Many falter not because they lack the desire or the vision, but because they lack the patience to let it unfold. They place conditions on the outcome. If it doesn't happen by this date, I'll give up. But real trust sets no conditions. It simply knows, and that knowing is enough to quiet the mind and still the heart. Trust is the act of surrendering your need to control the how and when, while remaining deeply anchored in the belief that the what is certain. This is the mystery. The more deeply you trust, the more effortlessly life begins to reflect your belief. Trust does not strain, it does not grasp, it does not force, it lives in peace, and peace, being the highest vibration, draws all things unto itself. Your trust becomes a magnet, pulling the fulfillment of your desire toward you, not by force, but by alignment. What you hold in trust must come, because trust is the evidence that you are already in possession of the promise in spirit. This kind of trust cannot be taught by theory. It is forged in the fire of delay. It is built when nothing is happening, and yet you choose to believe. It is formed in those long nights when fear whispers lies, and still you choose to say, "I will not be moved." Trust is not weakness. It is spiritual strength in its highest form. It says, "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." I will not doubt. I will not let go of what I have seen in the spirit. The challenge is that trust feels like emptiness to the natural mind. It feels like doing nothing, but in truth it is doing everything. Trust is holding your inner world steady while all else seems unstable. It is speaking the language of completion when all around you screams lack. Trust says, "I see what cannot be seen. I hear what others cannot hear. I know that what I have desired is already mine, because I have received it inwardly. And once it is received inwardly, the law is set in motion to bring it forth outwardly. You must come to the place where you no longer ask, 'When will it happen?' but instead say, 'It already is.' That is trust, not waiting for life to change before you feel peace, but feeling peace now because you know it will change, not waiting for the door to open to feel worthy, but knowing you are worthy, and therefore the door will open. Trust removes all anxiety, because it shifts your focus from time to eternity. In eternity, your desire is already complete. In trust, you draw that eternal truth into time. When you trust, your actions are not driven by desperation, but by confidence. You no longer act to make it happen, but because it has already happened. Trust affects how you walk, how you talk, how you carry yourself. You no longer chase outcomes, you attract them. You are no longer needy, you are settled. You are no longer tossed by waves, you are anchored in still waters. This is the posture of those who create their world through divine law. So the next time you feel the impulse to panic, pause, remind yourself, "The moment I desired it and believed it was granted." The delay is not denial, it is development. It is the divine intelligence setting the stage for your manifestation to emerge in the most perfect, powerful way. Your only role is to stay in the state of trust. The bridge between desire and fulfillment is not effort, it is rest. It is spiritual relaxation into the truth that you and the promise are one. The world around you will test your trust, Circumstances may contradict your assumption, but hold steady. Not give your power to appearances. They are only temporary echoes of your past states. Your present trust is creating your future world. The one who trusts is never shaken. He may bend, but he does not break. He may be silent, but he is not hopeless. He knows, and his knowing is enough. Therefore, trust, not blindly, but boldly. Trust with eyes wide open and a heart full of expectation. Trust not because you see it, but because you've seen it within. Trust because God has never failed to bring to pass what you've accepted as already done. And trust because you are no longer a servant of doubt, but a master of spiritual law. This is the bridge between your desire and its manifestation. And as long as you remain upon it, refusing to turn back, you will walk straight into the fulfillment of the vision you once dared to believe. Strength is found in surrender, not struggle. The world has taught us that strength is in the struggle, that to win we must fight, strive, and push with everything we have. But the deeper law of spirit reveals the opposite. True strength is not found in struggle. It is found in surrender, not surrender to defeat, but surrender to divine wisdom. Surrender is to let go of control and allow the higher intelligence of God to orchestrate the unfolding of your life. It is to yield your ego-driven effort and enter into the flow of supernatural rest. We must understand there is a power at work within us that does not require force. This power moves mountains not by effort but by alignment. It operates best when we stop trying to make it happen and instead allow it to happen through us. Struggle, for all its intensity, often stems from fear. We struggle because we doubt. We struggle because we believe we are alone. But surrender is rooted in trust. It says, I don't need to figure this out. I only need to follow the inner voice that already knows. The one who surrenders becomes a vessel for miracles, because in surrender you make space for the divine to move. You stop interfering. You stop resisting. You stop arguing with the season you're in, and instead you accept it as sacred, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, because surrender does not mean passive resignation. It means spiritual cooperation. You are not giving up. You are giving in to something greater. You are yielding your will to divine timing, divine methods, and divine order. This is why the moment of surrender is often the moment of breakthrough, not because the external changed, but because your inner atmosphere shifted. You stopped wrestling with what is, and began resting in what shall be. You laid down the weapon of worry and picked up the shield of faith. That's when the heaviness lifts. That's when clarity comes. That's when the peace that surpasses understanding begins to govern your soul. The need to struggle comes from the illusion of separation. When you believe you are separate from God, you believe everything depends on you. You believe your breakthrough is delayed because you haven't done enough, prayed enough, worked enough. So you exhaust yourself trying to force a spiritual reality into physical existence. But the truth is you are not separate. You are one with the source, and because you are one, your supply, your healing, your direction, everything is already within you. Surrender simply opens the channel for it to rise. It takes more strength to surrender than to strive. It takes courage to say, I don't have to have all the answers. I choose to trust the one who sees what I cannot see. That's real spiritual maturity. Anyone can panic when the outcome is uncertain. Anyone can fight when fear is present. But it takes divine insight to lean back into peace, to fall into grace, and to declare, not my will, but yours be done. That's not weakness, that is supreme power. Struggle keeps you in a posture of resistance. You are constantly pushing against what is, trying to bend it into what you think should be. But resistance blocks the flow of answers, blocks the movement of divine supply. Surrender is softness. It is receptivity. It is the open heart that says, I am available for the highest good. I let go of my limited view so I can receive the infinite vision. And that openness becomes the gateway to revelation and transformation. Even Jesus, in the Garden of Gethsemane, came to this place. In his moment of anguish, he didn't struggle to change what lay before him. He surrendered to it. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. This was not defeat. This was the ultimate alignment. The moment he surrendered, the strength to fulfill his purpose was released, and so it is with us. When we surrender our need to control outcomes, divine strength rushes in to sustain us. Surrender does not mean inactivity. It means inspired activity. You no longer move from fear, you move from peace. You don't act to prove or protect. You act to participate in the unfolding of God's plan. Your steps become intentional, your decisions guided, your actions graceful. You work but without worry. You move but without madness. You plan but without panic. You have entered the rhythm of rest, and in this rest there is a force working for you greater than anything you could produce by striving. This is the invitation. Lay down the burden of control. Surrender the outcome. Let go of the need to know every step. Instead, yield your heart to the one who knows the end from the beginning. Stop trying to manipulate the manifestation, and instead, anchor your soul in trust. Say within yourself, I will not fight against the process. I will surrender to the divine intelligence that is guiding every detail of my life. And watch how the path unfolds with ease and grace. Your strength is not in how hard you push, but in how deeply you believe. Your power is not in forcing a door to open, but in knowing that the door already prepared for you cannot be missed. Your confidence is not in how much effort you exert, but in how fully you surrender to divine timing. When you truly surrender, the anxiety lifts, the striving ends, the pressure dissolves, because now you are no longer carrying it alone. You were never meant to carry it alone. You are co-creating with the Spirit. Your role is to believe, to align, and to obey the inner nudges that flow from your surrendered heart. Everything else will be taken care of. Everything else is already in motion. The resources, the connections, the opportunities, they are not activated by struggle, but by surrender. They are summoned by faith, released through rest, and received by the one who trusts. Let this be your declaration. I do not need to force anything. I surrender to the perfect plan already unfolding. I lay down my fear, my control, my anxious striving. I choose to rest in the assurance that what is meant for me cannot be lost. I release the burden and receive the blessing. I let go and I let God, for in the moment you surrender, divine strength will rise within you. A peace will come that confirms your prayer is already answered. A knowing will settle that declares it is already done. And you will discover that the greatest strength was never in the fight, but in the stillness, not in the push, but in the pause, not in the storm, but in the surrender. Strength is not the ability to fight harder. Strength is the grace to surrender deeper, and in that surrender all things are made new. God is never late. The delay is your preparation. Delay is one of the most misunderstood tools in God's divine process. To the impatient heart, delay feels like denial. It feels like something is broken, like your prayers are being ignored, or worse, forgotten. But that's only when you're looking from the outside in. When you live by the senses, you misinterpret delay as abandonment. But when you perceive from the Spirit, you understand that delay is not God holding back, it's God preparing you to receive fully, faithfully, and fruitfully. You must realize something crucial. God is never late. He is never scrambling to catch up. He is not surprised by your need, your circumstance, or your timeline. His timing is perfect because it is eternal. He does not move according to the pressure of time. He moves according to the readiness of your spirit. Delay is not a punishment. It is preparation. It is the grace of divine timing allowing the unseen foundation to be completed before the structure of the blessing appears. So many people pray for breakthrough, but are not yet strong enough to carry the weight of the answer. They ask for promotion, but they are still ruled by pride. They ask for relationship, but haven't yet healed from past wounds. They ask for wealth, but haven't cultivated wisdom. If God were to release the blessing too soon, it would crush them rather than crown them. And so, out of love, not neglect, he waits, not because he's withholding, but because he's building something eternal. Think of a seed planted in the earth. You water it, but for a long while you see nothing. To the impatient eye, it looks like the seed has failed, but something sacred is happening underground. Roots are forming, structure is developing, the foundation is deepening. The same is true for your life. When it feels like nothing is happening, when all is still and silent, that is when God is doing his deepest work, not in the realm you can see, but in the realm that sustains everything else. Delay becomes your teacher. It teaches you to trust what you cannot see. It teaches you to develop patience, which is not passive waiting, but spiritual maturity in motion. Patience is the soul resting in assurance while time catches up with truth. And that kind of patience turns delay into preparation. You are not merely waiting for a thing. You are becoming the version of yourself who can steward the thing with excellence and grace. In delay, your faith is purified. Your motives are clarified. Your identity is strengthened. What God is building in you during the waiting season will outlast any temporary blessing. He is not just preparing the gift for you. He is preparing you for the gift. Because if you are not changed the moment you receive it, you will mishandle it. Your blessing requires your becoming, and God loves you too much to let you walk into something unprepared. The world values speed. It glorifies shortcuts, but divine process cannot be rushed. In the unseen, heaven is aligning people, places, and timing. If you rush the process, you step into a reality that your character cannot uphold. But if you trust the delay, you will arrive not only at the right place, but as the right person. You will not only receive the breakthrough, you will know how to live in it with wisdom, peace, and purpose. There is something holy about the waiting season. It forces you inward. It causes you to confront your thoughts, your assumptions, and your illusions. It presses you to cultivate a deeper awareness of God's voice. When everything around you seems motionless, you must go deeper within, and there you'll find the still small voice whispering, "Be still and know that I am God." Delay reveals whether you're attached to the outcome or anchored in the presence. Sometimes the delay is not about the blessing being ready. It's about removing everything within you that would sabotage it. Bitterness, impatience, fear, control. These are the weeds that must be pulled before the harvest appears. If not dealt with, they will choke the very thing you've been praying for. So God, in His wisdom, pauses the process, not to punish you, but to protect what He's planting in your life. Your job during the delay is not to despair. Your role is to align, to continue imagining the end with faith, to live as though it were already done, to rest in the invisible certainty of God's promises. Remember, the only difference between a dream and reality is time. And time is not your enemy, it is your servant, arranging every detail according to the divine plan. Even what feels like a setback is often a setup for something greater. Don't allow the delay to cause you to lower your expectation. Don't water down your vision because it's taking longer than you thought. Keep it high, keep it vivid, keep it alive. Just because it hasn't appeared yet doesn't mean it isn't already yours. The moment you believed, it was done in the unseen. Delay is simply the bridge of time that allows the seen to catch up to the unseen. Do not jump off that bridge before the promise arrives. When you feel weary, remind yourself everything is happening as it should. I am not behind. I am not forgotten. I am being perfected. My roots are going deep, so that when my life blooms, the wind will not shake me. This delay is not a detour. It is divine design. There is a season for sowing and a season for reaping. But no harvest comes without a hidden season of becoming. Every spiritual giant was formed in a hidden place. Every breakthrough was preceded by a barren, looking season. Every promise fulfilled began with a season of waiting. You are not alone in your delay. You are being refined, and when the moment is right, it will seem sudden, but you will know it was not sudden. It was slow, intentional, and sacred. It was God preparing you in silence for a blessing too big to contain. So take a deep breath. Release the panic, let go of the calendar, step back into the eternal now, where all things are already complete. Say within yourself, I am in perfect timing. What is mine is making its way to me. I will not rush. I will not force. I will remain faithful in the delay because I know my preparation is proof that something great is coming. God is never late. The delay is not the absence of the answer, it is the formation of the vessel who will carry it, and when the time is right, you'll look back and say, "Thank you for the delay. Without it, I would have never become who I am today." The delay was not a detour. It was your preparation, and now the promise is on its way, right on time. Trust is the secret bridge between desire and manifestation. Prayer for strength, trust and break.